And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we're going to be doing a recap of every single one of these NBA games that went down the other night. We're going to highlight some key players. We're also going to highlight some players that were rather disappointing, and as well as talk about my picks and how many teams I ended up picking right that ended up winning the game in the end. So I did this yesterday. I did this segment yesterday where I did my predictions for these games. So I'll go ahead and I'll do it, and I'll go ahead and list off the teams that ended up playing and who I picked and who ended up winning. So we'll start with the first one on the list, with the Nets going up against the Atlanta Hawks. So I picked the Hawks to end up winning in this game. They ended up winning 120-116, and talking about the Hawks, I mean, Trae Young, phenomenal. Played absolutely fantastic in this game. 30 points, 12 assists, 5 rebounds, and he didn't really shoot the ball really that efficiently. In fact, most of his points were generated on free throws, but aside from that, 7 for 16 is pretty solid shooting, and 2 for 6 from 3. Again, not really that efficient at the three-point line, but given that this is Trae Young, I'm not really surprised that he went 2 for 6 from 3. But still, 30 points and that kind of performance, 12 assists, is incredible. And not to mention, Onyeka Okongwu, for the coming off the bench, ended up going 11 for 12 for the Atlanta Hawks and ended with 28 points. That is hyper efficient, and obviously, it was off of dunks and, layups, but still incredibly efficient, incredibly valuable. If they can get this kind of production from him coming off the bench, it's not that likely, but they could be a pretty solid team. But then again, this is the Atlanta Hawks. They have been a relatively mid-tier team for the longest time under the Trae Young era. And let's see, who else played well for the Hawks? Dyson Daniels ended with 15 points, 6 of 12 in this game. Resacher, he ended up playing in this game, the number 1 pick in the draft. However, he went 2 for 8 from the field and ended with 7 points. Now, it should also be noted that Resacher is getting barely any media attention, barely any kind of criticism for this kind of performance. Meanwhile, when Bronny steps in the game for just about 2 minutes, he gets all the criticism in the world. So I just wanted to point that out because, again, this guy is the number 1 pick in the entire draft, and he's not getting any kind of scrutiny for playing like this whatsoever. But not that I'm going to scrutinize him, but I'm just more surprised at the fact that he has not faced any sort of scrutiny yet. Now, another player for the Hawks, DeAndre Hunter, he ended with 12 points. However, he did go 3 for 10 from the field, which isn't that efficient. But again, as I said before, you win by a mile, you win by an inch. A win is a win. The Nets, they had a ridiculous performance coming in from Cam Thomas. He ended the game with 36 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and ended 14 for 27 from the field. This guy wears number 24, and he wears that number well, because let me tell you, he does not pass the ball. He shoots that thing like it's nobody's business. Straight up, just anytime he gets close to the basket, Kobe! Every time. It's incredible. And what's even crazier is that, he scores a lot. You can't really, get mad at him for not passing because he's scoring the ball pretty well. 7 for 13 from 3. And let's see, what else was I going to say? Well, one problem with him is everything else. He's a ridiculous scorer. In fact, he is a bucket. But when it comes to passing and when it comes to defense, he is absolutely abysmal. And that's the big weakness in his game, his defense and the lack of passing. He doesn't want to pass because he can score the ball. And I understand, not wanting to pass if you can score the ball like he can, but still, you want to get other teammates involved because it's possible that these teammates don't shoot the ball well. But then again, that's probably why he just decided to take all the shots, because the Nets as a whole did not shoot that well. So Cam Johnson ended the game with 14 points, 4 of 10 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3. Dennis Schroeder ended the game with 5 for 16 from the field and 13 points. And let's see, Dorian Finney-Smith ended the game 3 for 10 from the field, 8 points. And again, it's just a not very efficient night coming in from the rest of this team. They did shoot 39% from three, however, which was much better than the Hawks and going 9 for 28 on 32%. But still just wasn't enough. They did not get the ball moving nearly as much as they would like. But again, don't really expect much coming in from the Nets in this season. Next game on the list, the Warriors went up against the Portland Trailblazers. Now, I picked the Warriors to end up winning this game, and obviously they did. They won in spectacular blowout fashion, 139-104. Andrew Wiggins ended the game with 20 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. Steph Curry almost had a triple-double in this game, ended with 17 points, 10 assists, and 9 rebounds. But the big key to this piece and the best player that for the Warriors was Buddy Hield coming off of the bench. He only played 15 minutes, and he ended the game with 22 points and 5 rebounds, along with 5 for 7 from 3 and 8 for 12 from the field. This offensive system is going to work really well for Buddy Hield. Given the amount of gravity that Steph Curry attracts and the amount of pressure that he attracts with this team, there is a good chance that a lot of people are going to be more worried about Steph than they're going to be worried about Buddy Hield, thus allowing Buddy Hield to perform. Now, again, this was against Portland. The Portland Trailblazers are not a good team. Now, aside from that, Moses Moody ended up playing really well, 5 for 11, 15 points. Trace Jackson Davis ended with 14 points, 5 for 5 from the field. Let's see, DeAnthony Melton ended the game going, let me see here, 4 for 11 from the field along with 10 points. And Draymond Green ended the game 3 for 3 with 8 points. The Trailblazers did not have a very dominant game. They did not have a solid player, aside from Scoot Henderson, who ended the game with 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. But he did go 7 for 18 from the field and 0 for 5 from 3. Jeremy Grant ended the game 6 for 18 for 16 points. Again, not ideal, not efficient enough. Fernie Simmons, 5 for 12, 15 points. Denny Advija, 4 for 10 and 15 points. And let's see, DeAndre Ayton, probably one of the worst number one picks in draft history. I'm sorry to say this, but it's like I cannot stand DeAndre Ayton. 5 for 12, 10 points. And let's see, how many rebounds does this guy get? And 11 rebounds. Again, not a very dominant performance coming in from the former first overall pick. Now, it wasn't last year that he was picked first overall, but that's besides the point. So, the Pacers, they ended up winning in this matchup 115-109 against the Pistons, and the Pistons are still the Pistons. I just gotta say that. They ended up receiving a technical foul in this game for having too many players on the court. Like, you never see a violation of having too many players on the court, or unless it's football where they have too many men on the field at a specific time of the snap count. That happens a little bit, but you rarely ever see a team put 6 players on the court. That is awful. That is horrible awareness, lack of awareness. It's just really, really bad coming in from the Pistons, and I don't expect anything to change from the previous years. And so, sorry, Pistons fans, you should have prayed that you got Victor, but that's unfortunate. The Pistons, they ended up, Cade Cunningham ended up being phenomenal as usual, 28 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds. But all of this is just essentially garbage time stats. I'm sorry to say this, but it's like, these numbers are meaningless on this kind of team. And Jalen Duren, 13 points, 13 rebounds in 30 minutes. Pretty solid performance coming in from Duren. And let's see, Jaden Ivey, and he ended up getting 17 points, 4 assists, and along with 5 rebounds. And he did go 5 for 13 from the field. Malik Beasley ended up going 5 for 13 from the field, ended up getting 14 points. Tim Hardaway Jr., who's now on the Pistons, God rest his soul, mainly because I feel sorry for him, or God pray for him, not God rest his soul, that's my bad. He ended up going 4 for 9, 14 points, but he did go 4 for 7 from 3, which is very efficient. Tobias Harris for the Pistons, who was on the 76ers, 13 points, 6 for 13 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3. It's really I'm surprised that Tobias Harris ended up becoming this kind of player after what a fantastic season he previously had. Not with the 76ers, but I believe it was with the Clippers. And again, it's it's not ideal. It's really not ideal. Now, the Pacers, on the other hand, Miles Turner, 20 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Pascal Siakam, 19 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, along with 2 steals. And, they shot rather efficiently, 8 for 15 for Siakam, 7 for 14 from Miles Turner. And it should be noted, for all of you guys that don't think that that think that Trae Young is worse than Halliburton, because I do remember somebody in the chat saying that Trae Young is not better than Halliburton. Guess what? Trae Young completely outperformed Halliburton in last night's games. Tyrese Halliburton ended up getting 15 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and shot 6 for 18 from the field. Trae Young completely outplayed him. So, Trae Young is obviously, this is not the end all be all for the entirety of the season, that I understand, but this is a start, and it's not even like he just slightly outplayed him. He vastly outplayed Halliburton in this matchup. I mean, remember, Trae Young ended the game with 30 points and 12 assists. So who is really the true point guard here? I mean, Trae Young ended with 12 assists. What happened? What happened with Halliburton? But that's all that I really have to say about Tyrese Halliburton. Enough with that. But again, Trae Young is better than Halliburton, and I stand on that. Now, who else played well? Benedict Mathurin for the Pacers ended up going 5 for 8 with 19 points, the second leading scorer for this team. And again, they're playing the Pistons, so it's not that big of a deal. So, next matchup, so far we were 3 for 3, but this is where I ended up picking wrong. The Orlando Magic ended up beating the Miami Heat 116-97. This was a masterclass performance for Paolo Banchero. I already talked about it in the first segment, so I'm not going to spend that much time on it. But again, first player in NBA history to accumulate 30-plus points, accumulate 10-plus rebounds, have 0 turnovers, and have a box plus minus of 40 or better, which is astonishing. This is a historic performance. And I don't think you can. It's really difficult to beat someone who's playing a historic game like this. I mean, 0 turnovers is probably the most impressive part about this entire stat, and he has 33 and 11. Franz Wagner, I already mentioned, he ended up scoring 23 points, and Wendell Carter Jr., the center for the team, ended up getting 8 points and 14 rebounds. Now, this is just Paolo Banchero just completely outplaying Miami Heat star Jimmy Butler. He ended the game with 3 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds, and shot poorly. I'm not going to really cover this game that much because, again, I talked about it in the first segment, so if you want to hear what I have to say, then you can go ahead and listen to that. Now, the Bucks against the 76ers. Actually, we're running a little bit low on time, so I'm going to have to speed run through a little bit of this. So, I picked right against the Bucks and the 76ers. The Bucks ended up winning 124-109. And this was a masterclass performance from Damian Lillard, a great performance from Giannis Antetokounmpo as well. Dame ended with 30 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Giannis ended with 25 points, 14 rebounds, and 7 assists. And Bobby Portis off the bench, 16 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Tyrese Maxey was solid, not even solid. He was actually really inefficient in this game. 25 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, yes, but he did go 10 for 31 from the field. He was taking every single shot like it was his life. And Kelly Oubre, 8 for 18, 21 points. Again, they were not going to win without Embiid in this game. They weren't. And not to mention not having Paul George either, they were not going to win in this game. Next, the Cavs ended up beating the Raptors, so that's another pick that I ended up getting right. Let's see. Scotty Barnes, unfortunately, he let me down in this game. He ended with 9 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds. I hope this isn't the norm for him because I did highly encourage you guys to pick him for fantasy. I don't think this is going to be the norm for him. He only played 26 minutes in this matchup as well, but again, I just hope that this isn't the norm for him. He's a fantastic player. He fills up the stat sheet, but again, this was just not a very solid performance from Barnes. He ended the game 3 for 14 from the field. Really, really, really bad, but again, I don't think it's going to be the norm. Evan Mobley, leading scorer for the Cavs, 25 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. Donovan Mitchell ended with 21 points, 3 assists, and 2 rebounds. And Darius Garland, I mentioned I wasn't really that confident on Garland, and my confidence on him ended up proving to be correct. Ended up going 3 for 12 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3, and 7 points. So, also, it should be noted, Karis LeVert ended up going 8 for 9 from the field and 2 for 2 from 3. So, a pretty solid performance and dominant performance coming in from the Cavs. And next is the Pelicans and the Bulls game. I already talked about it, but the Pelicans ended up winning 123 to 111. If you guys are interested in what I have to say, you can just rewind. Now, this is where I picked wrong again. So, Hornets ended up stunning the Houston Rockets in a huge fourth quarter comeback, all thanks to LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball ended the game with 34 points, 11 assists, and 8 rebounds. The first Charlotte Hornet player ever to open up with 30 points and 10 assists in a game. In an opening game, I believe it was. So just a phenomenal performance coming in from LaMelo Ball in this one. And, I mean, I'm very, very shocked at how well he played. Trey Mann ended up playing pretty well too, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist. And that was really like the bulk of the scoring coming in from Charlotte. Same thing could be said about the Houston Rockets. The bulk of the scoring came from Jalen Green, who ended the game with 28 points and 2 rebounds, along with 9 for 23 from the field, and Sengun, who ended with 25 points, 10 for 22 from the field. However, Fred VanVleet ended up scoring only 14 points, and we did not get to see the rookie in action, unfortunately. Actually, no, we did. Reed Shepherd ended up playing only 16 minutes, but only was able to record 4 points, 2 for 5. I don't really expect a rookie to do anything in that much time, so again, not really that big of a deal. Now, the next 2 games, I'm going to skim through it. I already said that I thought the Suns were going to win, and they ended up beating the Clippers, so there's that. And then the Grizzlies. I thought the Grizzlies were going to win against the Jazz, and they ended up winning against the Jazz as well. Now, there were a lot of dominant players. Santi Aldama ended the game with 27 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Ja Morant ended with 22 points and 10 assists. Desmond Bane ended the game with 24 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Zach Edey didn't really play all that much. He only played 15 minutes in this game, 5 points, 6 personal fouls, and 5 rebounds. So that's not a very good start. He ended the game with 6 personal fouls. That's more points. No, that's more fouls than he had points. And he's the 8th pick in the draft. So not ideal, but again, a win is a win is a win. And Ja Morant played hyper efficient, 7 for 12. Santi Aldama ended up going 10 for 16 from the field as well, and with 27 points, like I mentioned before. The Jazz, they were not that great, even though Lauri Markkanen ended the game with 35 points and 9 rebounds, going 9 for 15 from the field and 4 for 7 from 3. So overall, in the recap, I ended up missing 2. I ended up being wrong on 2 of those games, which I think is pretty solid. But that's all that I have for this very long 4th segment. So now we're going to go into the 5th segment, which is going to be rather short, right after this short break. So be sure to stay tuned.